you've never been here before. Here, what's here? Reading from the Science of Mind magazine, daily guides, courtesy of Creative Life Spiritual Center, and me, I'm David. I'm one of the ministers down at Creative Life Spiritual Center. We have 3 ministers in Spring, Texas, and we have another minister up in the Northeast. Every day I read from the daily guides. It's always a different reading each day, of course, and every month we switch people who write these daily guides. Maybe one of these days I'll get around to see if I can actually write a month's daily guides. I'm not too sure about that. We'll see. But one of the things I like about it is because it gives me a new perspective on things frequently, which actually helps me to make meaning out of a lot of things in life. You know, we all seek to make meaning out of things. Some things are meaningless. I mean, for instance, how do you ascribe meaning to the wildfires going on in California? How do you ascribe meaning to an earthquake that kills millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people? I don't know, but at least when I look at these readings, it helps me to start making some meaning out of my own life. And this is one of those, actually. In fact, the whole reading is called The Meaning That We Make, The Meaning We Make. The first quote is from Robert Downey Jr. I'm sure you've heard of Robert Downey Jr. I don't need to look him up because if you know anything about films and so on, he will be familiar to you. If you don't, then look him up, Robert Downey Jr. And he says, I think that the power is in the principle of moving forward as though you have the confidence to move forward. Eventually, this gives you confidence when you look back and see what you've done. In other words, the very act of doing something or moving through fear, for instance, gives you a power over that fear. And Ernest Holmes in Creative Ideas says, everything is continuously being recreated. And it literally is true that the creative spirit, capital S, is forever making all things new. We must permit it to make them new for us. Every day brings new things. And as I said, that was from Creative Ideas, and it's on page 24. And this is Rev Kelly, and she says, I'm a chaplain at a local hospital a few days a week. One time this past fall, the emergency department was extraordinarily busy. Some patients came in with unusual symptoms. After a few days of this, at the end of their shift, a staff member mentioned that the moon was full. Of course, that explains everything. Everyone chuckled and went on their way, knowing the craziness would end soon and the stress would not continue because the full moon was temporary. And she goes on to say, whether the full moon was the reason or not, naming and giving meaning to stressful or unusual circumstances in our lives helps us explain events and make meaning out of things that may be difficult to process or understand. Reverend Kelly says, part of my role as a spiritual leader is to help folks identify how they see events. A health diagnosis, the death of a loved one, or a change in an important relationship can throw us into turmoil. When the story of our lives takes a turn, the meaning we typically make out of our story falls apart or transitions. We often struggle to make new meaning and find ourselves disoriented. He finishes by saying, today I invite you to examine the meaning you make out of events in your life. What does getting divorced mean? What did that health problem mean? Take an in-depth look at areas where you struggle to heal, people you struggle to love. How do you interpret your life's events and your subsequent actions? Well, this is pretty timely for me because I mentioned yesterday we went to the memorial service for the son of a friend of ours, and he was 26 years old, and it's apparently been struggling with mental difficulties, and the mental difficulties got the better of him. So he's gone. So it's things like this. How do you struggle to make meaning out of it? And I was thinking at our spiritual center today when our senior minister, Reverend Jesse, was talking. He was talking about basic principles of science of mind. That's what we do in January. Usually the 4 or 5 Sundays in January, we talk about basic principles. And one thing the science of mind does is it helps us to make sense out of things. And I think for me, it also helps this way, that when I know that other people who have been through a similar situation or a similar education, even to me, also struggle to make sense of things, then it kind of, and they come through, then it gives me the confidence to know that whatever I'm struggling with and whatever I'm trying to make meaning of is just temporary. And that at the end of it, I'll come through this and I'll make sense of it. So I get comfort in knowing that people are suffering with or going through, should I say, similar struggles that I am, and that they're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just kind of comforting to know that. And I think the thing about it is, it's comforting when people are vulnerable enough to open up and just say this. People look up to leaders, whether it's in business. Oh, most people do, not everybody, of course. But they also, throughout the ages, have looked up to spiritual leaders, religious leaders. And if you are a religious leader of any shape or form, like a priest or a minister, for instance, and people look up to you, then you kind of think, I shouldn't be going through all this because people look up to me and expect more. But when somebody in a similar situation says, hey, I've struggled with this stuff and I continually struggle with it, it helps you to be more realistic. But it also, I think, helps people when I'm vulnerable and I say, look, yeah, I'm a minister. I've been through all this training. I've been through training in spiritual and religious ways and lots of times in my life. And I struggle with this. I struggle with things on a day-to-day basis. I struggle to make meaning out of disasters and so on. I struggle to make meaning when people in my life, go off the planet for unexpected reasons, or when I'm faced like with a disaster. There were fires here, and that not too long ago that actually destroyed a lot of homes. This is in Southeast Texas, and one of my friends who's since passed, he and his wife lost everything. He showed me a picture. All that was left is what you've been seeing on the TV. The chimney was all that was left of his house, and that was it. And that kind of brought it home. So we all struggle to make meaning, but I think when we know that other people have struggled and they've come through it and they're vulnerable and they talk about it, it helps us make meaning out of things in our lives. Those are my comments on today, and I hope it helps you because. And the other thing is, and I mentioned it to one of our practitioners this morning, that we really are here to help you. We really, really are here to help you in your daily struggles. So if you need somebody to pray for you, somebody to hold something in mind for you so that you can get through something, then hey, that truly, truly is why we're here. Because we're not here for our own aggrandizement at all. We're here for helping you. And of course, ourselves and everyone else. I am a powerful and positive force for making meaning in my life. I am a powerful and positive force for making meaning in my life. That's a good affirmation. And remember the affirmation that I was stressing the other day, which is love. Love yourself. Remember that exercise. Go if you really struggle with loving yourself, you're down on yourself, go look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you, I love you, I love you. And do it on a regular basis, at least morning and evening, until you can actually accept the fact that say, yeah, you've done a lot of stuff in the past I didn't like, but I love you anyway. That's me. I'll be back tomorrow at 5. Reverend Lisa will be back tomorrow on 5-ish because I'm doing a mediation tomorrow afternoon. So whatever time it finishes and I get back here, I'll do the reading. And Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow morning at 9:15. Oh, and we have something new during the week. Wherever you're getting this broadcast now, Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page on Wednesdays of every week at 11:15, one of our practitioners, Daniel Mercadal, who's actually part of our board, will be doing a meditation. It will not be a long meditation because it's in the middle of her lunch hour, I guess. So 11:15 a.m., we're permitting, she will be doing a meditation. So look out for that. And that's from Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. Wednesdays, 11:15. So until next time, namaste. Oops, it didn't